Almost.
Excuse me.
Okay, we're all set.
Excellent, thank you. So it's 5:31 p.m. We have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order and we'll take roll. Sarah, can you take the roll call, please?
Chair Benson,
Here.
Vice Chair Lou,
Present.
Commissioner Tack,
Present.
Commissioner Chris. He texted to let me know he wouldn't be here tonight.
All right, thank you. We will move forward to the Pledge of Allegiance. I always hate this, how to start this.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
to the
For
Republic,
which
for which it stands,
stands one nation,
excuse me,
indivisible.
individual, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
All right, thank you. And now we will open the floor to public comment. And we'll give it a couple of minutes. I remember last meeting, we were told to give it a few minutes for that, so we'll give it a minute or two.
Okay, I don't see any public comments.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the minutes from the last meeting, 9/26. Anybody have any comments on the minutes? Nobody has any comments or corrections in the minutes? I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I make a
Second.
motion, we approve them as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Approved.
I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Chair Benson,
Yes,
Vice Chair Lou,
Approved.
Commissioner Tack.
Yes.
excellent, thank you. We'll move on to number 5, the grants update. I'll give the floor to Sarah to give us the summary of the, excuse me, the grants update.
Thank you. We talked about the Transformative Climate Communities Grant, and that was the $35 million grant for a whole lot of work around the Jewel community, solar, sidewalks. Unfortunately, we were not recommended during this cycle. So at this point, we're not in line to get funded for that grant. We are, however, still moving forward with the Clean California grant. We have an artist chosen by the Public Arts Commission who will work on some artistic shade structures that we'll add to we'll install when we do the sidewalks. We're just working to get them under contract right now. And we are doing the kickoff on November 12th. We'll be having a cleanup. There'll be several cleanup projects around the city, but one will certainly be one of the first cleanup projects for that grant along Jackson Street between Avenue 45 and Kenner. And then there's the clean mobility options. This is a new grant. We haven't applied for it yet. This one has 2 options where it talks a little bit about, or there's about $100,000 for clean mobility, kind of a study where you work with your communities to kind of come up with ways that, or mobility options that they might prefer or that might work in certain areas. And there are also an implementation grant that's about $1 million. We're looking into possibly, as we've been working through our work plan to figure out where to put EV chargers, that might be something we could submit for. But I am working with Blaze, the grant writers, to come up with a project for that one that might fit and that we might be able to submit an application for either of those. We're a little bit on the fence whether we need a study or whether we're ready, we have the idea that we want EV chargers and just to move forward with implementation on that. And that's all I have for the grants update, unless you have any questions.
I have a quick questions with the clean mobility grant. Can you clarify the two different, the 100,000 and the 1 million, the difference between the two again, please?
Sure. The 100,000 is a study. It's kind of a survey that you do throughout the community to see if like car share programs or or mobility options like that might work or where they would work. So it's more of a, if you're not sure what mobility option would work best in your community area, that's what that grant would be for. The other one is more of an implementation grant. So if you know what you want to do as a clean mobility option, you would go for the larger grant, the $1 million grant, to kind of actually make that happen.
So, and you said the EVCSs would be part of that 1 million possible grant. Would that also, if we were to look into and discuss things like expanded bus service, or even talking about, excuse me, the possible train service from LA and Orange County, and the train station, that possible train station that would need to be in Indio for that, is that something that we could use for that?
I am going to go ahead and share my screen very quickly, and I'll show you the kind of types that they list. Okay, these are their mobility types that they more or less list. Innovative transit, meaning, you know, they still have a few things listed under there, but I don't think it's specific to just these. But these are the kind of projects they have funded in the past. And these are also, although this is, I believe, more of the actual implementations, that they're also the same kind that they're looking for studies. Like, if you need to do a study to see if any of these mobility types will work in your neighborhoods or situations, then you would go for the needs assessment voucher. And then if you are ready to run the project, then the types of project that they fund, that they have funded in the past, are like these. But I mean, that seems like what you're talking about might fall under on-demand shuttles and transit expansion.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, then,
Yes,
yes, Sarah, on the bike sharing, when you build the new sidewalk on 48th Street, could that be a possibility for that that goes all the way from the link from the CV all the way down, coming into 48th and all the way into La Quinta?
I think it could be. I'm going to write some of these ideas down that you're giving me, and I'm going to take them to Blaze, and whichever she feels, they're pretty good at matching projects to grants. And if she feels that any of these are good contenders to be funded, we'll go with it. So bike share along 48, right? Because we're expanding all of that.
Yeah, that
Okay.
might be an opportunity to have stations of bikes in certain locations, and just you ride it to the next location, and then you just do a bike sharing program all along 48th.
Yeah, and I had not thought of that, and I have not brought that up to her. So absolutely, I'll bring that, as well as the expanded transportation ideas that Chair Benson was just talking about.
Yep.
a question on the November 12th cleanup. That's between Avenue 45 and where?
And Kenner, and that's only a small part of it. It's a larger project than that. But for the Clean California grant specifically, that's the area that we'll be working in.
Okay. Any support that we can contribute to there and on that effort on the 12th?
As a commission, as somebody who wants to come out and
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the setting of it. Do you have like subcontractors, or is this a call to the general public to
it is a
participate?
call to the general public. We will have some, a lot, staff out there to support the efforts.
Okay,
So it is
Okay.
an open call.
okay, very good. That's the important part, that folks know that they can certainly join and show up and participate. And then on the Transformative Climate Communities Grant, that's sort of disappointed that we weren't selected given our growth and within the desert and the many things that Indio does. Was there anything in particular on the ranking that we missed on our application? Any aspect of our program that needs to be built out for next time, assuming that there will be more grant money popping up?
There was feedback provided. I don't remember all of it, but I do remember one of the things that they did say was that they wanted to see job growth or job opportunities from everything that we did. And we were really good about working with Grid Alternatives and with the College of the Desert to be able
Right.
to provide training for solar and all of that. But we were really focused on solar. And they did, for one thing, want us to kind of open that up to other possibilities besides just solar.
Uh-huh. Okay, so that, okay, I guess that's, noted, and I guess something that, a direction to swim towards in the general direction, because I don't really think, it doesn't really seem that you can put everything in place just when the grant is open. So you almost have to sort of grow your program towards what you think these grants are going to be asking for, looking at. Thank you, Sarah. Well done to yourself and the team at the city for identifying these opportunities. That's all I had. Mr. Chair, if you can go ahead, please proceed.
All right, anybody else have any other questions regarding the grant update that Sarah presented? Any follow up? All right, if not, we'll move on to the updated work plan. So everybody had a copy of that. Sarah, do you want to go through this, or do you want to go straight to any questions or comments from the commissioners?
It's up to you. We can do it either way. If you have any questions or if it's specific, then it's just however you want to do it.
All right, I like to go. It's a fair amount of pages of stuff, and it's very well put together. And I think we've all had some time to look at it. So I have a couple of questions, a couple of comments, if I may. Going with the EVCS that we've talked about for a while now about, and it's on the, excuse me, the first page of the agenda item 6.1. Recently there was an article that came out about Electrify America is putting in a big station in Baker. I believe I read another article about talk of another large electric EVCS station to go in, possibly in somewhere on the East Valley, sorry, the West Valley. So should we be moving forward in doing this? I know we had talked about in the past that the model of gas stations in the past would be something we could look at for EVCS. What do we want to do about this moving forward? Do we want to try and promote local businesses to put in EVS stations, or do we want to pursue this possible model of these large EVCS stations that are freeway adjacent, that are in, sort of in large malls and stuff like that?
Right. These are the questions really when every time we come back to this program. And we know we have, so the Electrify America has put some DC fast chargers at the Walmart for basically any cars. They're pretty universal. And then the Tesla stations are down by the Home Depot in that area, and they're expanding that because it's so constantly used. So they're upgrading that. So we have a pretty good amount of EV chargers along the freeway, I think, plus DC chargers. What you want along the freeway are the fast chargers, the DC chargers. They're very expensive. They're very difficult to put in. We would probably, more realistically, we're looking at level 2 chargers, and those take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours to charge a car. So you'd want to put them places where people are going to be for a while. So we'd have to narrow down kind of areas that we'd want, options that we'd want to put them in. And then there is the other option, as you said, do we use the funding to help the commercial community that's already out there to go ahead and build out their or EV chargers where they are? A lot of times you might be looking at employees more than people who come to a place to do something, because there's very few places that you're going to stay for very long, I think. So it may be a matter of putting in chargers. The Green Building Code has required that the plumbing be put in with new building structures for a couple of years now, I think. So there's plumbing out there, and we might better use the funds to help support the community to actually go ahead and add the charging stations. There's some background work to be done on that. That's kind of what I had on here. It fell off my radar for a couple of reasons, but my hope is to bring back some kind of a logical thinking to all of this to present to you so that you can make those decisions. And that's what I'll be working on in the background.
There's also an upcoming new state law for next year for residential, for particularly HOAs, about EVCSs and how basically the short version is an HOA cannot deny an EVCS in their community. They have to put them in their public parking areas. And for places like condos and apartment buildings, they cannot deny anybody asking to have one put in. So maybe that's something we might want to pursue, is the residential aspect of EVCSs, and help some of these larger communities in their clubhouse areas, their public parking areas. It doesn't factor in with single family homes, but basically, like I said, the law states that a HOA cannot deny an EVCS request by a homeowner to have in their community. So that might be something we could focus on, because we do have a lot of HOA communities in Indio, a couple of very large ones. And if Electrify America and companies like that are taking care of the large EVCS that are freeway adjacent, that are commuter oriented, maybe we can, as a city, focus on our homes and our homeowner communities.
Thank you for bringing that up. As I was kind of putting together what I wanted to bring back to you, I really hadn't thought about areas like that. I think that the single family homes aren't necessarily something that we would work with. I know that IID has a rebate for single family homes to put the chargers like in the garage so they can charge at home. The only issue with supporting that is that it doesn't do anything for the range value of those vehicles, which is one of the biggest barriers to folks go ahead and purchasing one. So if they're in your home, you have basically that range. If you have them out in the community, then you extend the range. So I think that having them even in a community or kind of residential facilities is a great idea. And having them out in the community or business areas is a great idea. I don't know that we're helping all that much with the single, if we're adding them to single family homes. But I will write that up and bring it back as part of the.
Well, it
whole-
wouldn't be single family homes. It would be more geared towards the communities that have like public access golf courses and so there would be that long-term parking. Someone's playing golf all day, or there's an event, a wedding or a luncheon or something, or some kind of conference at I just went to a conference recently at what was the name of it now? I'm sorry. It's the large community in North Indio off of Washington. Anyhow, they had a large clubhouse. It was a public event, something like that. Even just like, any sort of public area, the parking garage at the courthouse is something we could do. Even though that might be a county issue, the county might do it. But my point is maybe I like to focus on this and get this done, and get some locations sorted so we can get this moving along.
Got it. And those are great ideas. I will look into those. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had another comment on another item with the let me find it here real quick, excuse me. The HHW station, and it was kind of hung up on finding a location. The county can't find a location. Can you tell us what's going on with that and why not? Because we got a huge county fairgrounds area that we could definitely put there.
Right. It's actually not theirs. They need a place that's ours. It has to be a
city location.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have nothing at all that we could do?
It is, right now, there really isn't. I checked with the planning department, with economic development, talked to them about what we would need, which isn't much. It's just a large enough area that the traffic can move around. As far as building it, there's, there are grants out there, and I know that the county would support that. And once the construction costs are done, the county operates it and works and does all the disposal. So we don't have to do anything about that. But it's finding a place to put it. And at this point, I've just not been able to.
Okay. And is there any location that's possibly on the bubble that we might need to kind of do something with to make it appropriate, or it's just kind of a flat out we're stuck at, there's nowhere to go?
I feel like we're stuck because it's not just any property. It also has to be zoned properly. So that cuts down a lot of area. And so we're stuck at that point, at this point.
So can I make a suggestion? I don't know if this is possible. Could you possibly reach out to maybe your counterparts in Coachella or your counterparts in La Quinta and see if they might have a facility? Because I don't think it has to be in Indio. It'd be great if it was in Indio. But since the East Valley is sort of, La Quinta and Indio and Coachella are all we're all close to each other. If it's in one of those cities, or even Bermuda Dunes, we can do it there. But if there's something there, unincorporated land, maybe.
Yeah, I will. I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Those are the questions I had regarding the work plans. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the work plan?
Well, I just might ask, what's the zoning requirements for what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Industrial mixed something.
Oh, okay. So we don't have enough property where the golf course parking lot is?
I don't think that's zoned for what we need. You know what? If you want, I can bring back a map if that helps. That would probably be the clearest way to do it. And I can
imagine that any property that's zoned for it is privately held, not city held.
That was one of the issues, yes. And it's very industrial type areas with other industrial, obviously, commercial facilities around it.
The city would have to purchase the land right now because the city doesn't have the land in its inventory, correct?
Yes.
On that point, I would also assume that rezoning is possible, provided that in the planning department documents, there is some equivalency as to what can be rezoned for that particular purpose. Because you're probably not, most of those facilities, landfills, et cetera, you're not necessarily going to find something already zoned for that. But I haven't looked through these planning documents, but I know other planning documents, when you want to build a facility like that, the planning department already has in their ordinances what can be rezoned to what. So, and that's not inordinately difficult as long as it's within the predefined definition of what can be rezoned to, that particular type of use.
Mm-hmm.
I say it's not inordinately difficult, but I actually haven't rezoned for haz waste. I rezoned for landfills, and it wasn't that hard. But it does require public comment and a few months of permitting and so on. Yeah. So that's another route. I did have some comments, some of which on the renewable energy options. I would have to say, actually, before I make any specific comments, really kudos. Thank you for bringing this back, and well done. Very, very well laid out, and lots of good progress. I was looking at this thinking, wow, Sarah must have a team of 20 people getting all of this done. So, really kudos on this. Next month, I look forward to seeing, hopefully we'll have that meeting because it's on or around the Thanksgiving holiday time, when you have someone coming in to meet with us on the November 28th to decide what the policies for the EV stations, but I guess we'll address that later in the meeting. The outreach plan, which is the development outreach plan, I would suggest, and I'm sure they'll do it anyway, that the outreach plan be surrounding the objectives in this program. I'm sure that they'll do that. The circular economy initiatives, I'll hold my comments on that until we get on to the true certification. And and the other one also is a zero waste option. So I'll hold those comments until we get onto the true certification. But I would just say well done and good progress thus far. The only thing that I didn't see in here was, and I didn't have time to look back, was some of the items on this did not have end dates. And I know you had a place in here for us to, did you have a place in here for us to do another update of this for this year, or I can't remember. I've looked at too many documents now.
Yeah, I don't think we have another update planned for this year.
Okay.
Probably the next time we bring this back, we'll start talking about this is where we are. What do we want to do in 2023?
Right. So the ones where we don't have any start date and end date, what are your thoughts around those? It just says in progress. I'm not sure if we're behind or ahead. I mean, we're in progress and thank goodness we're moving. So, as I said, well done, but should we just leave them open or should we tie them to a certain date? Sarah, what is your suggestion?
Well, it's going to depend, I think, on each of the projects to You're right. Like, for instance, the zero waste will have to be open because we're still kind of discussing it. So there's not really an end date for that yet.
Yeah.
If we, yeah, and then for the other ones, I'm not sure what else I have literally in progress. But I'll tell you what, I'll go through and see if I can put like reasonable dates on these for us to get something done. So it's not as wide open as it is right now. I mean, the whole
Right.
point of this was to keep on track with our projects. So yeah,
Yes.
you make a good point. And with without anything, with those open, just happening in progress, I see that that's not really helping us stay on track.
Well, yeah, no, I think we're off to a great start. I mean, well, great continuation start for me since I'm new to the commission. So I just say, well done on that, and we look forward to the outreach plan. Talking more about that for next month. So I'll hold the zero waste comments till we get onto that topic. Thanks, Sarah.
If I may comment, I think to address anything that's in progress or anything, it's up to us to decide to work on something. If something's stalled, we can create the initiative to uninstall it or make a decision that will get something to move forward, or to either discard it and move on to something else that might work in its stead. So we can take ownership of it and help along that, and help Sarah in whatever way possible to get something installed to get it moving forward. Anybody else have any comments on the work plan sheet?
No, and Chair Benson, the only reason why I'm reluctant to do that is because, as I said, it's a really heavy lift. And so I don't necessarily want to prescribe a date, not knowing what Sarah's other resources and the staff's commitments are. So I can send through some suggestions, but I have to be mindful of the fact that I'm just looking at one person here to get a lot
Fair
of this
enough.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think Sarah appreciates that, and we're not, our job isn't to dump a truckload of stuff on her desk, but we also are here to help her and her team and give direction and leadership. So if we can do that, then if it helps her, then great.
Sure.
All right, so if there's no other comments on the updated work plan, we will move on to the action items, which is the True Certification Staff Report. Everybody had a chance to go through it and to send their comments into Sarah since the last meeting. So without going into too much of what was sent to you, Sarah, is there sort of any sort of commonality or any underlying message that you got from the commissioners about it? Is there anything that we should address about this from what you got, if you got anything at all?
I did get a few things. And I think that there's some a little more, I'll explain a little bit more about the certification, in that for this certification, there's, for our commercial facilities, any kind of fines or exemptions and all of that are part of the SB 1383 regulations. The certification would be entirely voluntary, and it's a certification for zero waste. So it starts at the beginning of waste. So it's not a waste management certification. It doesn't get to waste really until the very end. It starts with, what are you ordering? Can we reduce anything that you're ordering, that packaging? Can it be used somewhere in another way along the process toward waste so that it doesn't actually get there? Can it be diverted somewhere else? It's a whole kind of system that starts from the beginning of a corporation actually working, ordering, procuring things all the way down, and the waste is the last thing that it looks at. I also was able to meet with Sharon from the Green Building Council, and Commissioner Liu also joined in to talk to her about that. Some of the main questions were, what will this really take from our business community? What are we really asking them? And her best suggestion was that the city kind of lead and become a true advisor, a certified true advisor, and then see if we can't get a true certification for one of the city buildings so that we really understand what we're asking when we go out, or if we go out and offer this to our business community. And I think as far as questions, like I wrote up the staff report, kind of a draft staff report, and I feel like that they're going to ask kind of those same questions. Well, what is it really going to take? And I think having me or any of you all welcome to become a certified advisor, which means basically watching videos and then taking a certification test, and that's pretty much it, then that would help us answer those questions. I would like to ask if Vice Chair Liu would want to talk a little bit about what she gleaned from that meeting with the Green Building Council. I will say, as in the staff report, they did offer us a pretty, I think, amazing deal, considering that we're a city, we're not really a corporation, but they're willing to allow us to become a member and then allow all of our facilities in Indio to use the member rates. And then she'd offered a 10% discount on top of that. So they're really willing to work with us to try and help our commercial facilities become true certified. For them, really, it comes down to, I did like that she explained that they really want this to be, they make the business case for doing this. It is a matter of, there's a lot that goes into waste management now. And if you can stop 90% of your waste stream from getting into the dumpster, then that's I can help not just with 1383 regulations, but there's a business reason for doing that as well. Vice Chair Liu, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, I sent you some additional notes based on the conversation, and you've once again done a great job, Sarah, in encapsulating their comments. And if you would, I just put my notes on the next slide over. That's my bottom line. The next one, please. So one more. Oh, did I? There's something funny there. Go one more up, one up. Maybe I'm missing it. One up, one up. Okay, it's funny that there's a slide missing, which is comments. Oh, you know what? I don't know, maybe I sent you the wrong version. I looked at those additional items, the Green Business Council. Someone asked, one of the other commissioners asked last time about zero other waste certifications, why true? I looked at the other certifications, and some of those others were related to a product or a service, like you want to put a stamp on some widget that you are creating. So this true offered the support that Sarah mentioned in getting an advisor certified. And then on any effort, as Sarah says, it's beginning with the end in mind. So I looked at another city, their city of Fort Collins, Colorado, to see what they did to reach their zero waste goals, and thought, well, where do we continue our journey? And what I came away from that with, which is not on the slides that you have, is, as Sarah says, I agree with the Building Council's recommendation that it's much easier if we're promoting this with other facilities to say we've done it, even if it's for the library or some, I would go with a very small facility. I wouldn't take on something too large. And then looking at the Fort Collins example, I see that in order to reach zero waste, if you plan this thing properly and figure out the steps that you need to get there, not just hurl into the darkness and think you'll reach, it might require new infrastructure. So if you would go down to, there's a slide that shows the Fort Collins thing. It says benchmarking the city of Fort Collins. They put in, they did regional cooperation, culture change. They worked on procurements, grants, just as Sarah and her team have been doing, or the city has been doing. They looked at, had a new facility, new warehouse, a new mixed C&D recycling facility, a new composting facility. They put in some ordinances on prohibited material and universal waste, such as the steps we're talking about, and then waste to clean energy pilot program, and then a new glass sorting facility. So if we want to really achieve zero waste, really, if we look at the numbers, look at the waste that's coming in or being produced, we'll probably have to realistically put in some steps, some actual physical infrastructure to reach that. And so I think that probably would take a longer term discussion, perhaps outside of this. And that goes into, how do we go from here to making that presentation to the city council? Do we need to do any more work, we feel, towards these sorts of things, or, to fill in any of that information gap before presenting it? I'll leave that decision to Sarah. So that's where I came from. Another reminder is, and sorry for jumping around here, if you go to slide number 4, just as a reminder on which my slides are numbered different than yours. That's the, maybe it's 3, here. Yeah, that one that says table 8. We already have these promises, one more please. We already have these promises that says table 8, zero waste implementation actions. We already have that promised in the, in the climate action plan and the general plan. So we've got these initiatives promised. So it simply makes sense to put it together in terms of a zero waste certification. Actually, we already have called them zero waste implementation actions. So it seems as though it's something that we certainly would help build some structure to what we're doing. So I don't see any huge disadvantages of starting along this journey. Not necessarily with a promise of 100% commitment, because we don't, the one thing we want to make sure of stating is that if you're in agreement with me, that we haven't fully assessed the infrastructure that we would need to support this zero waste goal, right? We haven't determined whether we need a new C&D, a new glass sorting, we haven't fully done that assessment. Is there agreement on that, or?
Well, we haven't talked about that, to my recollection, about what infrastructure we need to implement to do this. I think the talk has been
Right.
At this point is, do we pursue this
Yes.
avenue towards
Yes.
zero waste, and then we would tackle infrastructure from there, is my understanding.
Yes, good. Thanks for concurring. Yeah, so, yeah, I think you put it better than I could. Whatever he said, Sarah, whatever Chair Benson said, that's the way to phrase it. We don't want to overpromise or to appear that we don't know better. Yes, we know that we need to evaluate in a little bit more detail the steps, but I would certainly be in favor of moving towards this direction simply because we already have zero waste promises and commitments that have already been stated in our other plans. So how much can we lose really by proceeding along this path? So that's
So-
my
So
comment.
basically, we need an advisor and a location.
Well, I think it's a little more complicated than that. An advisor would help run it and help
say we-
liaise
say
with
we-
companies and whatnot to help them get their certification is I think.
But if we pick something that was easy to control, say either the historical museum or the library,
Yeah.
that would be something that doesn't, because the whole purpose of this eventually is a complete audit trail from whatever the location is, where they buy from, how they buy it, how they get it shipped to them, how they store it, how they ship it to their end user, and what happens to it when it goes and leaves to the end user. So it's really a complete audit trail of the product, whatever it is. And if it was something simple like the historical museum or the library, well, it would be much easier to trace those activities than a Shandy gas station.
But wouldn't that, Commissioner Tack, wouldn't that, your examples, wouldn't that be setting the bar so low that it really does the library produce that much waste? Does the museum produce that much waste? Quite frankly, does City Hall even produce that much waste for them to be transformative to zero waste? Like last time I was in City Hall, and that was quite some time ago, pre-COVID, there was recycle bins for paper and cardboard. And even then, like how much waste does the city and if we did have the city say, become true certified, is it really going to be much of a difference? And this is my issue with this idea that a lot of businesses, and let's take example, a convenience store, they sell single-use plastic items to the consumer. The waste that they produce by getting deliveries and waste from refrigerants or whatever it is, a lot of that stuff is out of their control to change. There's not that many glass soda bottles out there anymore, or water bottles out there anymore. There's a very limited amount of things they can convert to get to a zero waste. And I think that though this plan sounds great, I don't think it has a lot of meat to it, in the sense that, Commissioner Liu, you kind of talked about this very briefly, that we've already got a lot of promises to lessen our waste, and a lot of them just have kind of fallen through the cracks. I challenge everybody here at this meeting to, next trash pickup day, walk around your neighborhood and take a look at the trash cans your neighbors put out, because you'll see recycle items in the brown bins. You'll see trash in the green bins. You'll see trash in the recycle bins. And then just this past week, we had reports come out on NPR and CBS that 5% of all plastic goods that are put in recycle bins actually get recycled, and the rest go into landfill. So, if we don't actually do something that metrically alleviates waste, it's just a lot of talk. It's a lot of money people spending to a nonprofit to get a certification that sounds great, looks great, it's marketable to people, but it doesn't actually do anything.
I think what the certification will do is to help with our knowledge training and just help give us some framework around these promises, which, you know, as I said, they're already stated. We can't pull these back. We can't, not that I know of. They're already in the city's climate action plan, these zero waste implementation actions. And the game plan here is, you know, we went to the green business folks and said, can we get commercial facilities to do this? And, you know, what do they think about that idea? Of course, they were on board with it, but then they said, oh, by the way, why don't you guys lead by example? Which, you know, everyone knows that's what you do. When you're going to suggest to someone else, do something, you know, it's very sort of insincere if we're going in there at the city telling them, suggesting that they do it, and we haven't bothered to do it. You know, why should they listen to a word we say? And so in pursuing that for the city, all we're saying is start with a pilot program. Now, for example, for Fort Collins, they did their whole city, but their plan was a 7-year plan. And I very much doubt that they started with a city as a whole. We've made these promises in Table 8 here for the city as a whole. So we've already promised some very broad deliverables that encompass the entire city. We still need to work on that, but in terms of true, my suggestion is to start with a pilot program so we get an idea, because we don't want to, you know, we want to have success, but we don't end there. We start there with a pilot, whether it's the library or all the garages or all, you know, all of the city garages. I mean, I'm sure the folks within the city can come up with, you know, a set of the businesses of the cities of the city government operations that would be suitable on a pilot basis. So work out the kinks on that, because as you say, what we're doing is a life cycle assessment of all the goods purchased. We're, you know, going from cradle to cradle. You know, we're not going from cradle to grave anymore. It's a whole circular economy, which is part of our one of our goals on that sheet. We are doing, and that's the thing with True. It's just adding to what we said we would already do, just putting some more teeth behind it. We've already promised, you know, on the previous worksheets that Sarah had, we already promised to do circular economy. And then we have these promises out here. So you're quite right, Chair Benson. We have a lot of promises out there and we need to get moving. And I think the True Advisor program would help, you know, grease the wheels to get us to maybe speed our movement in that direction. But I'm just suggesting that we start with a pilot and not say we're going to certify the entire city operations. I wouldn't suggest
the bottom line is we need an operation and we need an advisor.
That's right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. And
Well,
Sarah
that's if we were to
told-
go, that's if where we are, if we were to recommend this to council and council
Yep.
implements it. So let me ask
That's
Sarah
right.
a quick question, if I may. Sarah, can you, off the top of your head, and it can just be a rough estimate or a guesstimate, how much play would you say is in the city of Indio's and all its, you know, entities to tighten up to their waste situation? You know, is there much play in that? Like, you know, are they recycling, you know, 90%, 100% of recyclables? Are they, is the Public Works Department with their trucks recycling used oil and tires and that kind of stuff? I'm assuming all the toilets are low flow and all that stuff. Like, is there much play in there for improvement?
That's a difficult question. I do know that when we talked to the Green Building Council, they said it was doable. And so what it does is it takes 90% of whatever waste you're producing now. So you have to produce at the end, you have to show that whatever you started from, you're 90% less. You're producing 90% less waste from that to become certified. That's one of the things. Another thing is obviously there can be only very little contamination. So what I can say is that I understand that it's doable, but I have a really hard time answering these questions and knowing what it can really do without trying to do it, without understanding what it's going to take and answering these questions. And I think these are the kind of questions that are going to come up with the city council. So I think that I like the idea of to be able to answer these, it's probably best to try to do a pilot program. Otherwise, I'm really guessing. I mean, we do a lot, but I don't know enough about the certification to know if I can tell you that would make a big difference or not.
Okay, that's fair enough. It just, because as Commissioner, Vice Chair Lou said, we've made commitments, we've made promises in the past, and I like to think that maybe we've lived up to some of those. And if we haven't, then maybe true certification is something to shore up the shortcomings of not living up to our promises in the past. But I look at some of the businesses. I look at my home, quite frankly, and I know this doesn't deal with homes, but we recycle all the paper and cardboard and all the plastic and all the metal, and we donate clothing and furniture and whatnot. We do as much as we can, and I know some businesses do the same thing, and I just don't see how we can make much of a difference if every item you buy at the store still comes with lots of packaging and still comes in plastic, and you order something from Amazon and it comes in a big box with lots of stuffing in there. And even the items that, like I said, I've said many times, items that you think are going to get recycled end up in the landfill anyways. So if we don't have a plan to either lessen the consumer packaging, which is a large part of what goes to waste in a business as well as a home, and that comes from the source, right? Like, you could sit there and say to Joe's Garage, hey man, try not to get as much cardboard, and he says, everything I order comes in a cardboard box. I can't get less cardboard because of, they can't ship an oil filter by itself. It's just, I think I personally like to see a more comprehensive citywide and valley-wide plan that has viable metrics to get to real zero waste. And it's not, like, I've made it quite clear since I got on this commission, I think waste energy is a very viable way to lessen our waste. And it's also a way to increase our energy for the valley, which is constantly growing. And you start talking about energy, hey, you know what? Why is not every building and every home in Indio and the Coachella Valley have solar panels on their roofs? It's just, these are all things interconnected, but so I'm saying I'm not thinking this system is all that to pursue, but that's for the committee to vote on and decide. Anybody else have any comments?
I just agree with, I agree with what you said. And I think whether it's this or some other certification to give us a little bit of discipline, would you say, or structure around these various commitments that we, quite frankly, have already made. But
Sarah,
I agree.
well, let me just say, Sarah, do you think we're premature in this? You think we have more work to do with the action plan and implementation of it before we get to this stage?
I feel like a lot of the questions are probably best answered through trying a pilot program. It's the only way I know to help contribute to this discussion. You know, it really made a difference, or it didn't, or it was really hard, or really it was just you know, exactly that. We really couldn't cut down very much. I can't. I think
Well,
that's hard to spend
yeah,
without
that's-
doing that.
That's why I recommended a small location, because if you're talking about purchasing, how you purchase, what you purchase, who you buy it from, what you do with the packaging when you get it. It's a very complicated procedure, and to go to 90% is going to be very difficult.
I think it is going to be hard, but it's also something that we can try here or do here. You know, we can affect what we can, and that's what we do here in the city, and we can work with our neighboring cities, but that's what maybe, I don't want to say that's what the focus should be. Big, it should be broad, but keeping in mind that we can affect what we can affect, which is here in the city.
Well, maybe for an example, if we took Indio Water, we could maybe take, that's a larger than the library, and it's got more employees and more activities, and it's got vehicles and everything else involved that a commercial location would have. Maybe that's a pilot program or possible, but the bottom line is we still need somebody to guide this through as an advisor, and we need to pick a location to do a pilot. So
I can get the certification if you guys agree to do a pilot within the city, or if that's your recommendation, then I can do the certification. And then if you want, I can bring back some ideas for facilities. How about that?
well,
Does
I would be
somebody want a
in
motion?
favor of that moving forward, because I'd like us to show that our intent is to decrease the amount of waste and try to work towards as much as we can eliminate. So I would be in favor of that proposal.
So Commissioner Tack, are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept her gracious offer to be an advisor and to help us guide us to a location.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments before we vote on the motion on the floor? All right, if there's no comments, we'll go to vote.
Okay. Chair Benson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Liu,
Yes, agreed.
Commissioner Tack.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
I would also add to that, not to amend the motion or anything, but just by way of support, Sarah, if at all possible, I will join you with getting certified on that, so I can continue to help ferry this issue through. Because as I said, it touches on so many promises that we have made in existing documents, and so I can sort of stay abreast of this a little bit and help do some of the background legwork on this. So yeah.
All of the commissioners are welcome to become certified, so I will send out an email to everyone and just reply if you're interested, and I'll get it all set up.
Sure.
All right, anybody else have any other comments or questions regarding the true certification staff report?
One question I was not clear on, with agreeing to have someone get certified and select a pilot program. Are you going to go ahead with the city council, bringing the item to them, Sarah, or are you waiting until certification and all of that to bring the item to them?
Well, if
what
I
is
can
your-
answer that, my understanding is that this commission has to agree to send it to council. Is that correct? So if you look at page 16 of the report, there's a draft document for submittal to the city council. So if somebody
Mhm.
wants to motion to put that, to agree to put that to council, we can do that and vote on it. Or we can wait for this pilot program to go through, and then if we think the pilot program works, we can then decide to send it to council.
Don't we need to pick a pilot location?
Sarah's going to do that once she gets certified. She's going to send us a report with possible pilot locations that we will choose.
Okay. I think maybe we should wait till we pick the pilot before we send it, because that may be a question at the city council. Who's going to be what's going to be the pilot location?
I think that's a good idea to see if it'll work before we send it to council.
Yeah,
Anybody
I'm
else have any
for-
other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm for whatever works.
Okay. I
Whatever
think
works.
I think it works best if the horse is in front of the cart.
Generally, it does work best that way.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item 8, commissioner comments. Any commissioners have any comments?
I did have, on general comments as to our meeting location. It is rather convenient meeting remotely. And I guess I'll wait to hear on what the outreach person recommends in November for our outreach initiative. I would ask, historically, is there better chance of opportunities for engagement with the public if we are back in the building? Does anyone have any historical perspectives to offer on that?
For the record, we are hybrid. In other words, I'm here in the chambers right now with IT. It's open to the public. You are welcome to join by Zoom or by coming in here. So the opportunity is there.
Does it work better historically, has it worked better to have outreach if we are back in the building, or does it not make a huge difference?
I think she's asking, does the public actually attend the meetings, or would we be by ourselves in the chambers?
Yes.
We're generally by ourselves, not always, but we have
Okay.
had people come in, but it's not very often.
So there's no huge advantage to coming back in. Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, I guess if it will enhance outreach, I'm happy to come back in or to go in, because I've never been in when we're meeting. So let's see what the outreach plan proposes, and if we can sort of engage people more by being there. I'm happy to be there, and I believe there's also some state or city ruling where you need to have some ruling to continue extending the remote meeting. So you can just let us know on that, please, when we need to make changes. That's all I have. And I thank Sarah once again and the staff for providing an update on our plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? I like to see us kind of shoot a little bigger myself, some bigger projects and some stuff that actually will make some significant differences. But that's something we can all work on moving forward. And if nobody else has, no commissioners have any comments, we'll move on to staff items.
And I don't have any more items. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will motion at 6:40 PM to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Everybody have a good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.